everybody, this is Severine back with another YouTube Pagan Challenge video, and E is for elements. So don't want to get too repetitive into stuff that we've already talked about because we actually did an episode on elements that we are more in tune with and things like that, and so also how we use them in spell work or whatever, but I certainly wouldn't mind branching off of that and maybe going a little more in detail in certain areas from at least my perspective. So I'm definitely more in tune with earth, hence the crystals and stones and things like that, and I'm definitely not a plant in tune earth element person. I have no green thumb. I killed a cactus, and you guys have heard that already, or you will pretty soon on the other one. Anyway. So basically my thoughts on the elements are that one thing that I felt like was really important in doing my research is that yes, you're inclined to one more so than the others, but you need all four. And they represent more than just, you know, oh, literally water is water, fire is this flame, or, you know, what air is the wind and things like that. It's more than that because air typically deals a lot with communication and sort of higher knowledges and things like that. Fire is very passionate, very creative, but also on the opposite spectrum, destructive. And water deals a lot with emotion and sort of balancing your emotions. So to me, I think it's important to have all four. And I just kind of wanted to talk about my personal struggle with figuring out my element. And I did talk about it a little bit on our group chat, but I sort of wanted to focus in on it a little bit here. One thing, I felt like for some reason I got it in my head that it was super important that I figure out what element I was supposed to be. And yes, it is important, but it's not. I think the thing that a lot of people get confused with is that you kind of do a checklist in your head when you start off, like, oh, well, as a witch, I need this and this and this, and it doesn't need to be that way. And this particular experience with elements is exactly why I figured that out. And I think it's because I came from a Christian background, and it's sort of like you get saved, you go out and you minister to people, and then you find a family, or, you know, you start a family, you get married, and you have kids, and sort of there's this big to-do list. And I think in this experience that it's sort of about learning that it's not really in your control sometimes what that to-do list is. Just as with anything, you know, you could eat the healthiest you could ever eat and still have a heart attack, and it could be something completely out of your control. So for me, I just remember Firechild was clearly very connected with fire. I mean, anytime we do spells and we want to start a fire, burn incense or whatever, if Ronnie and I are having problems getting the lighter to work, Firechild will get it to work. She just can. And Ronnie, you'll feel breezes and things like that when, like, he will say, you know, wind spirits help him a lot. And for me, it just wasn't coming to me, like, and I was like, oh, I feel like I should just know. It sounds like it's just this natural thing where you just know, you know, like with her, and she can, you know, start fire so easily, and he's got these wind spirits that come around all the time. This gust of wind following him, and I was like, so I don't know. all I did know was that I didn't really feel like strongly connected to a bunch of those. And it's really, you know, another thing people were like is, oh, you should go off of your zodiac sign. I'm a Pisces, so that would mean water. And I have almost this aversion to water sometimes, and part of it's psychological, and part of it's that I take medication for PCOS, and I don't know if that's part of it. I don't know if it's just something about my skin in particular, but like if I take a shower for too long, or used to anyway, I would get blotches and bumps and almost like an allergy to water. And I don't know if it's the minerals in the water or what. I mean, but you know, like I just didn't feel strongly connected to water. I felt connected to aspects. And so you see where I was kind of confused. I mean, like, well, just because this is going on doesn't mean that, you know, whatever. And, so I didn't feel like I was a fire or an air element person, although I do feel like I have a strong tie to air, and I do feel like I have a tie to fire, and earth. I just didn't know. I mean, you know, like I said, I had the experience with the cactus, and I was like, I can't be an earth element if I kill plants. And, you know, things like that. And sometimes it's on a deeper level than you even realize. And so I kind of looked up different methods of sort of embracing your element. And so one thing people said was try different spells. So for fire, you would burn stuff clearly. Water, you can do ritual baths, or you can do healing cleanses and things like that. And with air, it's a lot of times, you know, sounds and things like that, like singing bowls or what have you. And I definitely felt a call with singing bowls, and communication and astral and things like that. But nothing was really speaking to me. And eventually I read this article where it talked about that really this idea we have that, you know, everyone should represent one element is sort of a pop culture thing. You know, it comes from The Craft, where, you know, all of the girls represent the four corners, or in Avatar: The Last Airbender, you know, everybody has their own element or what have you of the four elements. And she said, you know, and the article was basically saying that we focus so much on that when maybe we shouldn't. And it stuck with me, and I was like, you know what? I really have been like so focused on this that I'm not really paying attention to things that I need to work on in my spirituality. I'm paying attention to a checklist. This one doesn't work, and this one doesn't work, and this one doesn't work. And so I was like, I'm not claiming anything or saying I'm anything until I know. And I think that happens a lot. You know, you hear other people's experiences and you sort of go, well, shit, why is that not working for me in the same way? So, and the truth of the matter was, it was happening and I wasn't realizing it was happening. Because I was starting to get really, really in tune with crystals. The first crystal I ever held in my hand that came home with me was a piece of peacock ore. And I remember feeling sort of this pulse right here in my hand. Very, very strong, like a heartbeat type pulse. And going, whoa. And then I started getting really in tune with crystals. I started, you know, getting a lot of them and then spending a lot of time with them and sort of realizing I have a very strong connection to these, and there's something really, really important about this. And then I realized essentially that I was an earth element. But that being said, just because I say that, you know, well, I'm more of an earth element does not mean that I think it's the only element I should work with, because it's very important to know how to work with all. I definitely think that there's something very important to take from that article that I read, which is that, again, it is a pop culture thing to sort of think about people representing the elements and sort of coming together as like a team, like, I guess, sort of like superheroes or pop culture witches or what have you. And I mean, not saying anything's wrong with that. That's not what I'm saying, because clearly I feel like I'm represented by the element earth. But I think it's important to incorporate all of the elements into your practice, and also understand that you're getting more than their physical representation in this realm. You're getting their representation on the spiritual sense. And it's important. And like I said, I've always had an aversion to water. So much so, one of my common nightmares that I have is that I am present when a tsunami hits wherever I am. I see it come, I see it hit wherever I am. I survive, but I'm present for it. And usually it's like at the top of the building or on a balcony or something that's like just getting brushed with the top of the wave or whatever have you, but I'm always right there. And then I sort of got connected with my female deity, which I will talk about in another video. And one of the things that was very, very prevalent to me in that was that I needed to work on my connection to water, because, you know, there's something there. And so one thing that I began doing was taking longer baths and showers and things like that. At least once a week. I'm a bath person personally. I prefer baths. And I will sit in the bath and sort of just take in the positive energies and vibes off of the water. And it's really been helpful, you know, like I haven't had breakouts anymore. So I wonder if it really was just a psychological thing. But there was, for some reason, this aversion to water. And yeah, so I think it's really important to know that. And maybe too, on the sense of like, you know, water tends to represent emotions. Maybe I'm not in check with those, and maybe that's important to realize. I feel like that's really important. And maybe you guys have similar experiences yourself. If you do, please talk to me about it, because I would love to hear it. I mean, I would love to hear, oh yeah, you know, I have a similar thing going on with water. I have a hard time figuring out which element is speaking to me or whatever have you. But just let it choose you. That's really what happened with me. I didn't go and decide, crystals are my thing now. That little stone in my hand was like, I'm talking to you. And that's what's important, I think, is that, you know, you are not forcing something that's not meant to be. Because checklists can be forcing something that's not meant to be. And then in the end, like I said, you know, you don't have control over it. If it's not your destiny, if it's not your fate to be associated with something or to work with something, then you shouldn't force it. You should follow your intuition, you know, because I think that's very important too, you know, sort of check yourself. Am I going off of what I want, or am I going off of what I feel like I should be following spiritually? And this one is a lot longer than my other ones have been, but I kind of like sitting here and just having a discussion with you guys. If you guys enjoyed this, let me know. And I will see you guys in the next one. Blessed be.